Hello and welcome to the Random Thought Show. My name's Jacob Tober.
And my name's Darren McInnes. On the show, we talk about anything and everything in fitness, high performance, and health. Hey guys, welcome back to the Random Thought Show. Very special guest here, Ben Walker. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, very exciting. So Ben is one of our most successful alumni ever. An easy way to test that is, did we ask you to come and be in the video for our online mentorship? And we did, so that's a good testament. So Ben, these days you've got a lot of interesting roles, and I'd like to chat to you about them.
Yeah.
So you work at Deakin University as what's your role called at Deakin?
It's called, actually I don't really know what it's technically called, but I usually just say a casual academic or sessional teacher or prac demonstrator is probably the easiest way to understand. So essentially just taking pracs and shoots.
Yep.
I guess that's kind of my main role in a sense at the moment. But yeah.
And what subjects are you doing that for?
Or what subjects aren't I doing that for?
Yeah.
I have done human structure and function. I've done exercise programming a lot. I've done exercise prescription, integrated human physiology, biomechanics, exercise physiology, basically everything under the sun.
What a brilliant way to both stay sharp and enhance your understanding stuff, because there's nothing better than having to teach a thing and explain a thing to being able to really know that thing.
Yeah, that's very true. My knowledge since starting teaching has just gone up so much.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah. At the start, I very much felt like a fraud. And then
I think we all do in those sorts of things.
Yeah.
You feel pretty nervous, and
I was super nervous, and very, very much felt like a fraud. Didn't think I had any reason to be there. Other than the fact that somebody gave me the job. And then you start to teach and you start to talk to the students and you realise how much you've actually learned since you were in the same position.
Yeah, cool.
And that was a really nice full circle moment where I was kind of able to go, oh, wow, this is literally me 3 years ago.
And I think that's a great strength too. As you get older, you can forget what it was like not to know stuff. But if you're getting into that pretty young, it's all pretty, that point where you don't know what you don't know is just back over the horizon. It's not that far.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. I want to talk about more of that soon, but I do want to round it out because I think the interesting thing for you is you've got this lovely interplay of different work environments. So you've got the Deakin gig, and then you are the strength and conditioning coach for the doggies in the women's AFL.
Yeah,
that's your title.
Yeah, strength and condition, or AFLW strength and conditioning coach at the Western Bulldogs. Yeah.
And it's a bit of a core advantage show there because you've got our other alumni. Liv is your high performance manager.
She's the big boss.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
Yeah, she's HPM.
That's great. And that's an amazing role. You must be loving that.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy that. That was one of those things that I started without realising how much fun it was going to be. And then once I got into it and, started to get to know the girls and build relationships and all those things, it just got so much fun.
They're great to work. People don't understand how great women in team sport contexts are to work with because they're really teamy. Their level of teaminess is top notch.
They blitz boys at teaminess, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't have any experience in men's footy at the elite level, but I've played footy all my life. And it is very different. It's just fun. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Everyone's smiley and happy and hugging each other, and you just don't really get quite as much of that in at least the footy I've played. It might be different in other environments.
And I think what you get too, which is really nice, is to some extent, some of the time, women will kind of edit their behaviour around men a bit, particularly if they're in the minority. So like my wife works at Holden, she's in a meeting with her and 8 men. She's going to have to kind of be less of herself and more kind of, I'm in man mode now. But you get 20 girls in a crew and then now they're in the majority, which is actually a relatively rare situation. And they're just themselves.
Yeah, I'd never experienced anything like that before.
It's awesome.
But it was also, I expected that going in, and I made a pretty conscious decision going into that environment that I was going into their environment.
Yeah, good.
So that I wasn't trying to necessarily be fake or anything in that sense, but I was trying to make sure that I fit into their environment and not the other way around. Like I didn't want them to have to adjust to suit me because I was a guy in a very female environment.
Yep.
You know, they'll talk about girl issues openly in front of me, and that's fine. Like that's their world, so I've got to fit into that. And it's good. It's been a really interesting learning curve, but a really eye-opening experience to see girls in sport. And
and you know, it's because I've been lucky enough. You know, this is my 13th year in the WNBL, so 13 years of working with elite female basketballers.
Yeah.
And it's just you learn a lot from them, and you have a lot of fun, and they work really hard. People don't, I think, just how courageous they are is not always on the radar.
No.
I remember I had an athlete played in a grand final with a broken rib, and she basically couldn't breathe or run, but she just played.
Yeah.
And I had another one, different grand final, had a complete subluxation of her talardome, like basically.
I think you've told me this story before.
Did an anterior dislocation of her ankle, like just kind of popped that sucker out.
Yeah.
And she was like, just strap it up and jab me.
That's good.
Which is really cool. So you've got the Deakin work, which is brilliant. You've got the doggies, but that's not enough for you because you're greedy. You've also got a gig at the Victorian Institute of Sport. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I've just come out of their strength and conditioning traineeship. So 12-month traineeship, essentially an internship.
Yep.
And that started in October last year, and I was working with a heap of different sports, but primarily I was working with the cycling, the track cycling, which is so different from anything I've ever done before. And I also got very heavily involved with the Melbourne Vixens,
cool,
which was awesome.
Yep.
Really, really awesome experience. And I was working under an awesome coach by the name of John Tasconi. So he was the head of strength and conditioning there.
Yep.
And he was a terrific mentor.
That's great.
I should give a shout out to Ben Willey, my other official mentor at the VIS as well. So he's the head of track cycling, strength conditioning, and sailing as well.
Yeah,
so,
cool.
Yeah, I did that for 12 months, and then I've been lucky enough to pick up some casual work with them outside of that as well. So
that's great.
Yeah, things have just sort of all come at once, and
And for me, it's always exciting to and you know, you worked here for a while, and then you've got too many other great opportunities. But so anyone who's been with us for a while is always kind of part of the family.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to see not just what's going on right now, because that's exciting, but what I see is in the horizon, like over the horizon rather, the kind of confluence of all these different roles making you into like an Uber coach.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I believe that. You have more confidence in me than I do. For me, it all just feels a little bit random, and I'm just sort of doing things here and there for the sake of it.
That's the first 10 years of your career for a lot of people, you know?
Yeah, I guess, you've done it, so I'll take your word for it. But for me, it just feels very random and kind of, in a sense, directionless.
No. Like Steve Jobs talks about how he talked, obviously he's passed away now, but in his commencement speech, he talked, which I'll make a link to, it's a good commencement speech.
Yeah.
He talks, sorry guys, slow rider. He talks about how at the time the things you're doing don't appear to have, it appears to be completely meaningless. Like he did a calligraphy course as part of his undergrad degree. It's like, what's the point of that? But that in retrospect, you don't realise you're joining dots, but you look back and you are. And so if it wasn't for Steve Jobs, we wouldn't have the ability to select fonts on our computers, because he did calligraphy, fell in love with lettering. And because previously there was one font.
And it was Times New Roman probably.
No, probably not even. Probably a really computery font.
Whatever the typewriter font was, I guess.
I think all the things you're doing in the different areas are definitely, because they're going to be helping each other immediately. Like you're going to be a better S&C coach because you're constantly going back to first principles in your teaching. And there's going to be kind of a constant cross-pollination of all the stuff. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like I've witnessed that already. So I started the Masters of High Performance Sport at ACU straight out of my undergrad.
Yep.
And this the year before I started training internship here.
Okay, cool.
But I didn't finish that.
So let's come back to that.
Okay.
I've done a terrible job of your lead-in.
Yeah, that's all right.
So let's go right back. So high school. Grew up in Portland.
Grew up in Portland. Knew Jacob very well growing up. So grew up in Portland, but went to school in Hamilton at a school called Monterey College.
How far is Hamilton from Portland?
An hour and 15 on a bus.
Okay.
So took the bus every day up until year 12, and then I actually boarded in year 12.
Did you?
Yeah, which was
Tell
fun.
us about that. That's unusual.
It didn't seem unusual because both my brothers and my sister did it. So when I got to it, it was kind of like, oh, this is just what you do in year 12.
It sounds like a great lead-in for moving to the city, though, to be on res, because it's not such a it's one you've already done that, you've broken that, that.
Yeah, I was never afraid of leaving Portland though. I was very excited to leave Portland. Like Portland's a beautiful town and it's a great place to grow up.
Yeah,
but
you're pretty psyched to get to the city.
I was pretty pumped to get to Melbourne.
Yeah, okay.
There's just not a lot there.
Yeah, okay. So you went to boarding school, did that for year 12 for kind of efficiency as well?
Monterey, just to save that 2 hours on a bus every day. And, that's in year 12, that's 2 extra hours of study per day. And it is very tiring. Like you get up at 6:30. It doesn't actually sound that bad now, but you get up at 6:30 and you get home at 5. Like that's pretty
early for a kid too. Like your teenage brain's still developing. It needs more sleep. That is tiring. I'll pay that.
It doesn't sound that bad anymore.
It's funny. Well, it's all context, isn't it? Like I was talking to one of our athletes about trying to get up before 8 o'clock, and she was like, "Oh, it's so early." I'm like, "I got up at 5:15 this morning. Like, 8 o'clock's a pretty nice sleep."
Yeah, 8 o'clock is a nice sleep.
Yeah,
these days.
I'd take that. So, when you were in year 12, was sports science your ambition then, or did you have other ideas?
It was just, as it is with a lot of people, I think it was just sport. Like I knew I wanted to work in sport in some capacity. I didn't really know what. I thought physio potentially, which we can come back to because that's an interesting story as well. I didn't have the marks and I was never going to get the marks for physio without having to drop footy and basketball and all those things that were really important to me. So, it was, I thought, something to do with sport. Looked at a few different options. There's the VU.
And you're a good footy player.
Yeah, I'm a decent footy player. I wouldn't say good, but decent footy player.
Yeah. So you played country football and then you played here as well? Yeah.
Played for Portland. Did all my juniors and stuff in Portland, then played with Portland seniors and then came to Melbourne. Actually played for Caulfield Grammarians.
Is that allowed?
Well, it is, yeah. I was part of the old boys. So, played with them for a season, then played another couple of seasons with a team called Surrey Park. It's part of the Eastern Football League.
Just near where I grew up, Surrey Park.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I grew up in Surrey Hills,
I thought you grew up in the western suburbs.
No, I grew up in Surrey Hills, but I can only afford to buy a house in the western suburbs.
Fair enough. Well, at least you have a house. And then played for Waverley Blues again in the Eastern, and that's where I'm still currently playing.
Okay. Yeah, cool. But you're not playing this season because you ripped your pec. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so
because you've had a history of hamstring injuries, and you're pretty on top of that these days, aren't you?
Oh, not quite.
Not quite.
I was really on top of the hamstring, and then I got lazy.
So you were smashing your Nordics in here. You were killing it.
My Nordic game was very strong. Yeah. It's not as strong anymore.
Isn't it? Okay. Tell us about the pec though.
Yeah, so the pec, it was round 3.
While you're doing that, I'm going to get us more water because I reckon we're going to run out.
Yeah, sure.
Carry on.
Round 3, I tore my pec. So I was tackling someone, laid a pretty ordinary tackle and tried to hang on to them when they clearly slipped through my fingers. And my arm sort of slipped up and behind me, and then I just felt my pec just tear in 2 halves essentially. Wasn't particularly painful. It literally just felt like the muscle sort of pulling apart.
So you've torn other muscles, and you were saying before that they are like really painful. Like you've been shot.
Yeah, so hamstring I've torn the same hamstring 3 times, and since tearing it 3 times, I've also strained it quite severely another 2 times.
You've done a thorough,
so it's a bit rubbish,
job.
that hamstring. But yeah, so
And so the pec just, when you say it felt like it just sort of separated, like it was sort of dividing.
yeah,
like
it's kind of like
that,
if you took a piece of rope that was frayed and just pulled on it, you could see all the threads pull apart from each other.
it's like dismantling almost rather than ripping.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of like blue tack when you rip blue tack apart.
Yeah.
That's sort of how it felt like to me in my head.
That's so interesting.
It didn't really hurt that much. Like it was a surprise, and I was like, "Oh, what was that?"
Yeah.
And then tried to use my arm and literally couldn't. And then I ran to the bench, and the physio checked it out and tried to get me to do like put his hand on the inside of mine, and got me to adduct my arm, and physically couldn't do it. Like
So
I had
interesting.
absolutely no ability to do it.
Do you know, just last night I was listening to a podcast on Craig Harper's podcast. And so Craig's one of Australia's most sort of famous personal trainers.
Okay.
And back in 99, I did a course that he ran, and I did my hours at his venue when I first got to start. And he had he's got it's called the U Project, cracking podcast, some really interesting guests. Last week, his training partner, Mark Lampard, who's a former professional bodybuilder, had a heart attack, a cardiac arrest. So he was holding his breath doing like 30 chin-ups after
Why?
having had 10 coffees.
Why hold your breath?
Well, it's a habit a lot of lifters get into, because people will hold their breath for, a max deadlift or whatever. And he just got into the habit of doing it on everything.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well, it didn't work out for him.
No, it
because his
didn't.
heart just flat out stopped.
Wow.
And he was dead for 17 minutes
Wow.
with Craig giving him CPR. And he's fine now. He's back and
Probably training and holding his breath.
No, he's very reformed on the breath holding.
That's good.
But anyway, they were, going through his story, and he was saying that he tore up. His nickname was the crab, which is another name for the most muscular pose. Where you kind of like do that sort of shape where you look a bit like a crab. And he tore his pec 97% off the bone doing that pose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
And at the time, I was thinking that's so weird that you could tear it in a shortened position.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
Based on my own pec. Like there'll be times when I sort of tense it to try and see how it's feeling, and it's still kind of a bit grabby.
Because I would have thought you could only tear it if you were like reaching up and back and it was really under stretched, but apparently not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how it happened for me. So my arm was kind of back here and lots of tension on it. And yeah, I think the downfall was trying to hang on to this tackle.
Should have just conceded.
Yeah, I should have just let him go. But you don't think like that.
No, you're just acting.
Just acting, yeah.
A long time ago, I had an athlete training with me who'd had a pec tear, and he'd torn it. Tried to lay out a clothesline for someone, and came off.
Oh gosh.
Came off second best.
Yeah.
And they just ran through him and ripped his pec off the bone.
Rugby player, I'm guessing.
Footy. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not that common in footy. It's
No.
very common in rugby.
Yeah.
You can tell I've researched it a fair
Yeah.
bit.
So it happens a bit in rugby.
Yeah, I think most teams probably go through one or two a year.
Really?
Yeah,
That's quite a lot.
It's not very common in footy. Like when I first did it, I started Googling just to try and get anything I could on it, but it would be like AFL pec tear 2019, and there'd be nothing pop up. 2018, there might be one that pop up, and then the next one might be in 2015. Whereas you do the same for the NRL. It seems to be about one per year.
Yeah.
I might have those stats totally wrong,
Yeah, but it seems more prevalent.
Yeah.
Well, with this athlete, what was interesting is he laid out the clothesline, he torn off the bone, but he didn't get diagnosed correctly. And so he was seeing a physio, and they'd thought it was just a bit of a strain. So they're massaging him through the area.
Wait, so he tore it off the bone?
He tore it off
And how do you mistaken that for a strain?
you do a bad job.
Like mine was only a partial tear,
but
and that was a significant painful injury.
It gets better. He tore it off the bone, and they missed it for like 6 weeks. So for 6 weeks, he's getting these agonising massages. And then he finally got a surgical opinion, and they looked at it and like, actually, it's inserted. It's like glue or like blue tack, more like glue, I suppose. It had inserted halfway down the humerus.
Oh.
Yeah, so when he would do that crab, like most muscular pose, you could actually see the tendon. The tendon would go from here to here.
Wow.
Yeah, and he said, well, can we reattach it where it's meant to be up in the shoulder? And they're like, probably not, because if we cut it off there, it's not going to be guaranteed to glue and scar up in there. So he just left it.
I didn't know that could happen.
Yeah, it was so interesting. He could still bench press. He was benching 50-pound dumbbells per hand. He just had to do it in a kind of a neutral grip. He was still really strong.
Yeah, I'm scared of the bench press now. I still will bench, but I was benching quite a lot previously, like a dumbbell bench, and I don't know if I'll ever be game enough to try that again. I think.
Yeah, and it's probably not a bad thing to not for life to not bench crazy amounts.
I was very close to 100 though.
It's a lot of weight. It's pretty cool.
I know, but I was so close. Like I'm talking 10 kilos. It's like I can get there, now I don't think I'll ever get there.
I had to give my greybeard talk to one of our coaches, Josh, the other day, because he's smashing his bench.
Right.
And he was telling me his bench ambitions, and I was like, yeah, but the law of diminishing returns and elevated risk is going to kick in toward that stuff. Do you know, in my home gym, I've deliberately, I've only got the dumbbells just go up to 25 kilos. Because I know, because I know myself.
You'll keep pushing.
I'll keep pushing. I was like, if I don't have them there, I can't do it.
Fair enough. But what has been really good about not being able to bench is I got very rigid in my own programming, and I was just doing the same program over and over and over again, and probably making very incremental gains, not very quickly.
Yeah.
And because I tore my pec, I had to basically strip everything back.
Yeah, cool.
Couldn't trap bar dead. Couldn't squat because I couldn't get my arm in position.
It's got to be a nightmare, yeah.
Couldn't bench, obviously. Couldn't do chin-ups. Just basically everything
took
that
out all the big
doing.
rocks that you liked, yeah.
So all I could really do was row and hip thrust and an overhead press. So I got really...
I'd have chucked you on walking lunges. I'd have been like, attack the walking lunges.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have done it. Like,
really?
I don't know if I could have gripped and held onto it.
Walking lunges with a vest.
With a vest, I could have, yeah.
And then you got to get the vest on.
Yeah, I could have managed that. I would have figured out a way to do that. But I really attacked an overhead landmine press. It's just because it's a little bit more stable than a dumbbell overhead press. And my fear with doing a dumbbell overhead press was that pec would try and jump in to help stabilize.
Yep.
So I kind of put it in front of my body and really attacked that and got super strong on that.
Yeah, cool.
And now I just love it. Like I don't want to give that one up now.
Yeah.
My problem is I get too attached to certain exercises.
Yeah, I'm the same. So tell me about the rehab from a pec injury, because I've never rehabbed one. I've got no idea.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So initially it was literally just arm weight. So like doing flyers with just my arms and doing like a 1 kilo dumbbell bench.
Right.
And it's been I've been playing around a lot. I'm kind of at that point now where it's probably 90% back to normal, but it's just trying to get that last 10%.
It takes a long time.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for the collagen. Like you can get the muscles back, but just getting that collagen,
And that's what it was. It was a partial tear of the muscular tendinous junction. So it's just been very, very slow.
So you took a year off. Basically wrote you off for a season of footy?
Well, that happened in round 3.
Yeah, bugger.
And then by round 14, we were looking like we were going to play finals. I thought, let's roll the dice and see what happens. Not great. Not advice I'd give to an athlete.
I feel like you should have called me. Anyway, go on.
Oh, we're all busy. I don't want to worry. I was actually working with Simon Anning.
He was great physio friend of ours.
Yeah. So he was urging me to play.
Was he?
And he said, if you just stick your tackles and keep your arm in close, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And so I played round 14 and it was all fine. Like the first 10 minutes I was very nervous. But then once I got over that, I started playing again and I was fine.
I haven't heard this story, but I've just got this feeling that we're going to have something to do with acute to chronic workload ratio and a hamstring. Is that an accurate guess?
Yes, you nailed it.
Because
absolutely nailed it.
Had you called me, what I would have said was, that's great that your pec's good to go, but what about the rest of the kinetic chain?
And I knew this. I knew all this, but you're never as good a coach for yourself as you are for other people.
Yeah. And how old are you?
26.
So you're
I'm an old man.
But the part of your prefrontal cortex that assesses risk, it's only 1 year old.
Yeah. Okay.
You've only just learning to assess risk.
I'm nearly 27 actually. So
a little more.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so you're
I was danger blind till I was 30. Like I look back on me in my 20s, I'm like, you idiot.
I'm danger blind to myself. But
not to others.
I'm pretty good with others. You're right. You were right. It didn't tear my hamstring, but I strained my hamstring in that game. And
so was that the second game?
That was the first game back. So I got through the first quarter fine, got through the second quarter.
Had you been doing much eccentric?
No.
Oh,
I'd been doing minimal amounts.
Yeah.
And it was a dumb thing to do by me. The lesson that I got out of it, which
good lesson,
was a really good lesson, was that injury prevention still is more important, at least. Is preferable to performance benefits.
What's the base? You've got to have the base.
Because I got really attached in the gym to strength and power.
Yeah.
And so I got a bit lazy with my hamstring care and all that sort of stuff.
I think you've just got to, it's a great lesson to learn though, because you'll do that once and you'll take that with the rest of your career. But it's that idea of we as, people in sports science, people who've got knowledge about, the nervous system, we get very excited about the performance benefits we can get from upregulating that nervous system. But it's easy to lose sight of the less sexy thing of, just maintain your resilience through some low dose time under tension stuff. You don't have to be lifting the house. Like, yes, lift the house, but also just make sure that you're constantly kind of looking after the foundations.
Yeah, and I got very power greedy. Like, I was just trying to get.
You're very strong as well. You've got.
But I got too attached to it. And stopped.
Got attached to a tool.
And stopped doing the little, those self-care things like your Nordics and heavy single leg RDLs and that sort of stuff. And then it was a really valuable lesson to learn, because once I restrained that hamstring, it was like, well, all that power and strength is wasted now because I can't use it because I'm not on the field.
And you can make a case too that, one of the most interesting case studies is if you've got two comparative football programs, you've got Essendon Football Club, when they had the highest soft tissue injury rates in the history of the AFL, and then you've got North Melbourne Football Club, where Simon was under Steve Saunders, where they had the lowest soft tissue injury rates in the history of the AFL. They had a lot of time under tension stuff. They weren't allowing them to do lots and lots of power development in terms of axial load, squats, deadlifts and stuff. Whereas Dean Robinson was, his philosophy was literally big is beautiful. He was interviewed in The Age, and that was what he said his philosophy was. And it was just lift big, heavy weights. I even had a picture of him deadlifting like 5 plates.
Yeah, okay.
And so he got those guys strong enough to tear their own bodies apart. And you could make a case that that's sort of, you had an interesting thing where you didn't maintain the running volume because it's hard to do that when you.
Yeah, and I wasn't training that much because I was really busy. So I was maybe getting to one training every fortnight if I'm lucky, if I'm being generous to myself probably. So
it's a good lesson.
It was a good lesson. Like it really reaffirmed my thoughts on just stay on the park. Yeah, I'd kind of lost sight of that. Like I got so attached to, how can I get more powerful forwards, vertically, left to right, backwards, all these things. And so I was doing all these probably not that useful things power-wise and strength-wise. But, the best way to prepare for your sport is to be out on the track and training and doing all those things. And then that got taken away from me because I didn't look after my body.
So for the reload for version 2...
it's very different. Like I'm basically... all I'm really doing is training pecs and hammies at the moment. I'm not even joking.
Make sure you do the groin as well.
That can wait. I'm not running that much yet. I'm starting to rebuild into running.
So what kind of running are you doing at the moment?
Very slow intervals.
Yeah, okay.
Just because I don't like continuous running. So
continuous running sucks.
Yeah. So very slow 20s.
It's actually if you're trying to run it really fast. If you're trying to run it slow, it's quite nice.
I agree, yeah.
A nice 5K in 25 minutes. That's quite pleasant.
I agree, yeah.
But trying to run it fast hurts.
So I'm doing 20 on, 20 off, maybe 3 sets of 8 at the moment, which is not that challenging, particularly the speed I'm going. But it's I'm basically pacing it on my hamstring. I'm trying to run as fast as I can without pain. Yeah. And I'll just gradually build up the intensity.
Nice. That's a great segue on the on the footy side of it. So, so much to talk about. Tell us all about, we talked about the sort of sociological, environmental, cultural side with the doggies. Tell us, as much as you're comfortable, about the programming side, because it's such an interesting new frontier. We had Tennille Hay on the show talking about her work with Carlton Football Club, and they had a lot more groin injuries. You guys had, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had 0 soft tissue injuries, like 0 games missed to soft tissue in your season?
Yeah, we did have some soft tissue. We didn't miss any games to soft tissue last year.
That's all the stat that can. Like sometimes you'll have a little niggle here and there, but if no one missed a game, that's a great stat.
It is a good stat, but again,
how many players in the team?
30 on the list.
Yes, it's still, and I know there's only 7 games, and right? But it's still 30 times 7. That's.
But I mean, 18, 20 on the day.
Still a lot of availability though. Like it's still still pretty good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, from that perspective, it was very successful last year. I don't know what I did.
And it's always a combination of have good load management, intelligent coaching, great physio. It's multifactorial.
Yeah.
Tell us as much as you're comfortable about the doggy setup. How does it work? When do the girls come in? Because the logistics of all this are really important. It's not just the high level concepts. It's okay. What are the nuts and bolts of how a week goes?
Yeah, I kind of had to throw away a lot of the textbook preconceived ideas because you just don't have the time and space and availability to do all those things. And I think that's true for just about any high performance environment. It's never ideal.
My favourite Dr. Darren Burgess quote, who's one of the smartest people in the history of strength and conditioning, he said, at a seminar I was at, he said, it's all very well to wear your Tudor bomber hat, but who's the kind of the godfather of periodization.
Yeah.
But in the real world, you've got to adapt to what's thrown at you on a week-by-week basis. And it's so true.
Yeah. So logistically, it runs. At least last year, we had 2 nights training. In pre-season, we had three training sessions. So 2 nights, Monday, Wednesday, and then Saturdays. So the girls would come in, get strapped, whatever, do the injury prevention stuff, and then get out on the track.
And what time would they come in?
Oh, it's a good question. My memory's failing me for that. Maybe 5-ish.
Yeah, and so some of them will have worked all day?
Yep. Well, just about all of them have worked all day or at least been at uni or something all day. Then they get off the track. Whenever they get off the track, come into the gym. And we tried to push for them to be out by, I think, 8:30 or 9.
So they're coming in to lift. They've literally walked off the track. They've walked off the footy field.
Yeah.
How hard are they getting worked at those training sessions? Are they coming in stuffed or are they coming in relatively fresh?
Depends on the day. Saturdays were our main sessions in pre-season last year, and they would often come in pretty knackered. But generally they were okay. And I guess it's one of those things that if you had to do it randomly one week, it would seem really difficult. But if it becomes your weekly routine, it doesn't actually seem that bad. Okay. You get a bit tolerant to it.
So the Saturdays they're coming in a bit tired, but the other days they're relatively. I mean, it's not like the kind of fresh you want is you've rolled out of bed and
you're not quite that.
You've done nothing else and you come lift.
Yeah. Now they're always carrying a little bit of fatigue, obviously coming from the track. But yeah, Saturdays that we would do match sim, so they would obviously be quite fatigued. Yeah.
And varying lifting backgrounds, I imagine, in terms of experience lifting?
Yeah, very much so. Some girls, one in particular who came from speed skating, so she was in the institute system and like absolute powerhouse. Probably, I'm pretty comfortable saying she'd be the strongest athlete in the league.
Wow.
Came back from a lower leg injury, a broken fibula, I think, in 7 weeks.
Wow.
Which is extraordinary. I don't think anyone else in the league
I've not heard of that. Yeah. That's incredible. Broken fibula. I mean, the good thing about fibula is it's not load bearing, so it's more of a stabilizer.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What kind of numbers would she push in the gym?
It's a good question. I can't answer that. I don't know.
But good numbers.
They're good. Yeah. Very, very good numbers.
Good pound for pound. Yeah.
And then other girls that have literally never stepped foot in the gym. So a very good spread in terms of experience, lifting.
And so you had to teach, one of the things I've found with training female athletes is you don't have to teach the guys to love the gym because they go to the gym and like, this is going to make me faster, stronger, better. That's cool. It's also going to make me more manly and like they're never worried about, if I lift too much weight, so I'm going to get bulky. It's a different dynamic. Whereas getting the girls will do the lifting because they have to, but they're not always going to be as in love with it as guys. They're not as junkies for the lifting.
It's funny that you say that because last night we did a screen and a couple of the girls.
Because you're leading into pre-season.
Pre-season, yeah. I saw the exact opposite of that. 2 of the girls were standing in the mirror flexing their biceps.
That's so cool. I love that.
So that was not quite what you're saying.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe I think it's shifting.
Yeah, potentially between footy and basketball as well. There might be a bit of a difference there.
And I think I'm optimistic that in society it's becoming more okay for girls.
I'd hope so.
To be as proud of themselves as guys are often proud of themselves.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So yeah, it's been an awesome experience. And seeing the improvement over 12 months for some of these girls it's pretty significant. Like people that couldn't do a single chin up that are now doing 6. Like,
That's great. That's huge.
A pretty good marker of strength.
Yeah.
And back to what you said way back at the start, they all want to be there. It's not as glamorous as men's footy and men's sport, and they don't make a job out of it. So the ones that are there, they actually genuinely want to be there.
You don't do it for any reason other than that you want to be there.
Yeah,
love of the game. And so the technical priorities. So what are you looking? What's the kind of athlete? What are you trying to defeat injury wise, and how are you trying to get there? What are you trying to build?
It's a good question. I think hamstrings in footy are just big. Adductors as well, particularly in girls.
And how did you guys go for ACLs? Because that's always hovering over every team.
We didn't have one.
Or touch wood.
Yeah, we didn't have one last year. Aside from one girl who's returning from an ACL.
Right. That's you have a demonstrated talent for doing your ACL then.
Yeah. So aside from her, no.
That's good. Yeah. Did you have a lot in place? So you're talking adductors, hamstrings, ACLs. They're going to be kind of your big 3 things you want to bulletproof people against.
Just heaps of glute work. I think is a pretty sure way to prevent some of those other things as well.
I think it's a good lead domino, isn't it? Yeah. Any particular things that you learned in terms of exercises people loved that you didn't? Because sometimes you'll love an exercise, or I'll love an exercise, and then I'll go to give it to the athletes, and they're like, I don't like this at all. And then the reverse can apply. Were there things that you learned that were different to what you'd expect?
Off the top of my head, no. Okay. What I did learn was how difficult it is to coach 30 people with one other person. So
that's a lot. So who's the other person?
Liv, essentially.
Right. So you've got the 2 of you coaching 30 people.
Yeah.
And what are your resources? You've got how many squat racks? You've got how many trap bars?
Plenty of squat racks, plenty of trap bars.
So you get to use the full doggies facility?
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Which is really good. But yeah.
What's that like?
I haven't seen many other ones, so I can't compare. It's good. Like, it's got everything you need.
Yeah, okay.
You can easily make do.
Yeah.
It's probably not quite as advanced as some of the other Victorian teams particularly, but it's still more than enough to get by, absolutely.
And so you program for them on Team Builder like we do here for our remote athletes?
Yes, so we do.
And so would they have their phones in the gym with them filling it out, or would you use iPads?
They do at the moment. It's still up. We're not quite sure if we'll get iPads. I'd prefer to have iPads just because then everyone's off their phones and away from their phones.
Yeah, I agree.
It's another distractor.
We debated about that, and the idea in the end was, you know what, we want people on iPads so that you can have maybe 4 athletes sharing one. You can toggle between, and so you don't have to have a million iPads.
And that's how the Melbourne Vixens run it as well with their with their team.
So their Team Builder as well?
Yeah. And cool. It's quite popular down at the VIS, actually, the Team Builder app. So it is very good. I'm not totally sold on it.
Yeah.
I think it's very good, but there are some things that frustrate me about Team Builder.
I think we have tried a million different apps here for a million different tasks, whether it's strength and conditioning, gym management, all that stuff. And it's just, unless you build your own one that you like exactly how you like it, you're never going to be totally happy with it. There's always going to be trade-offs. So,
my biggest grievance, the only thing that I want them to fix is just be able to copy things very easily. Just Control-C, bang.
Bang, and just copy it. Yeah.
Because it's quite an effort to copy something across. You either have to re-enter it, or you have to, copy the whole workout across and then pick the bits that you want.
Also, you don't get notification when someone's run out of their program, do you? Like you don't get. I'd like to know 2 weeks ahead that someone's running low, so you can reprogram for them. Because otherwise,
that catches me out all the time.
Yeah, that's a bit of an issue for us as well. So let's jump tracks a little. Let's talk about the Vixens. So netball, highest per capita knee reconstructions in Australia outside of footy, and when you factor in that footy is a collision sport on an uneven surface outdoors, that makes netball pretty interesting. Tell us all about coming into that environment. So that's an environment where I think strength and conditioning. We were talking the other week about how there's various different unnatural sports. So arguably the most unnatural is probably fast bowling. Like it's the weirdest thing to do to your body in terms of high impact. netball and ice hockey is very unusual, but netball's right up there. It's a very, very artificial constraints. That stop.
Yeah, having to stop on one step is, I think, honestly, if they added in one more step, I think you'd see a significant reduction in ACLs.
And are you across the irony of the genesis of netball?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to explain it to me.
So netball used to be called women's basketball.
Okay.
Right? So my nana would always say to me, "How are you going with your netballers?" And my aunties would say, "How are you going with your women's basketball?" I'm like, no, we're playing basketball. We just call it basketball. So what it was basketball was deemed too intense for the female body to cope with.
Right.
So they divided the court up into thirds, so no woman would have to run too far.
Wow.
And they made all these rules so you couldn't knock anyone over.
Right.
Because ladies were delicate.
Right.
And
wow.
so the thing that's fascinating is that in the pursuit of protecting the fragile female, what they've accidentally done through the law of unintended consequences, they've made a sport that's much harder on the female body.
A super damaging sport. Yeah.
So that's the genesis of netball. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Wow, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Because basketball started because Dr. Naismith wanted a way to keep his football players fit in the off-season. So he put a basket inside a hall and made them run around and made up
that
their
seems
game.
to be how a lot of sports start. I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't AFL a product of...
Do you know, I don't know that.
I'm pretty sure it was a way to keep cricketers fit in the winter, which seems ridiculous.
I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah.
Like if you tried to apply that context to it these days, you'd be way too fit for cricket if you were playing 4 years in preparation in the winter.
That's so interesting. So tell us about the Vixens. So they train at the VIS, and they've got a court there as well. So do they train on that court, or they train?
No, there is a court there, but it's kind of like a 3/4 court, multi-purpose sort of thing. So they train at the VIS, just do their gym stuff there.
Yep.
They train at the State Netball Hockey Centre in Parkville, I believe.
We've played a couple of grand finals. It's quite a good venue for
it is actually,
for court sports. Yeah.
That's where they do all their court. So they lift... I don't want to give away too many of their secrets.
No.
They lift two days a week.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't tell you how many court sessions they have or anything like that.
Cool. And is it how different in terms of the technical side from the footy? Is a huge difference?
No, I think strength and conditioning is strength and conditioning.
Yeah, people get
at its most basic raw form. Like you're always going to be lifting things. You're going to be doing
push, pull, hinge.
Yeah. I think. In essence, it's very similar. I think the nuances and the intricacies change a little bit. So where we might have a bit more of an adductor hamstring focus, they might have more of an ankle stability kind of focus.
Yeah, I feel like it's like 95% of team sports, like 95% of the DNA of the programs is pretty similar. And there's just like a 5% emphasis, nuance, variation.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah.
At least for the running-based sports, you might be able to speak differently for ice hockey, for example.
Yeah, it's quite different. But even then, it's like we say it's quite different. But if you looked at it on percentage basis, it's probably still 92% the same. One sport that isn't, though, in terms of it's quite a different demand, is sailing. So you're doing sailing at the VIS.
Yeah. So not a heap of sailing, but I'm...
Tell us about that.
So I'm working with, under my coach, Ben Willey, also my mentor, Ben Willey, who's the head of strength and conditioning for sailing at the VIS. And I'm looking after the development sailors.
Yep.
So they're not official VIS athletes.
Yep.
They're not on a scholarship or anything like that. But so I'd just see them one night a week for an hour and a half.
And sailing's a weird sport because you'll be in this weird... Because one of our former heads of education, Rob Blinkhorn, was interning at the VIS a long time ago. So Rob's now a physio.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to me the way they're going to kind of hang into this kind of extended kyphosis for a long time. Tell us all about how it works.
Yeah. So I'd never seen it, and I tried looking it up. And you can only get so much from YouTube because the views of it are always so far away. So I actually got to go out on the coach's boat one night, which at the time I was really miserable about because it was freezing cold and raining and I really didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But once I actually got out there and saw what was happening, it was nice. I sort of had a moment where I was like, this is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool just harnessing the wind to go fast. Yeah.
And it was just such a unique experience to have. So I kind of caught myself being a sook in the moment and went, you know what, this is pretty cool. Just appreciate this.
I trained John Bertrand, who's arguably Australia's most successful, famous sailor. So he won the America's Cup.
Yeah.
He was an amazing sailor, and he was still competing deep into into his 60s, I suppose, because you can just keep on doing it. It's pretty cool. It's the speeds they get to.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess in terms of like what their bodies go through, the way it was kind of explained to me is you're never going to, the strongest person in the gym's never going to win the race, or they might, but it's not the reason.
Yeah.
It's a technical sport, and it's very much a mental sport, like being able to stay focused for a very long period of time. But the way strength and conditioning for sailing was explained to me is if you build a bigger engine, then you don't have to work as hard. You stay a bit fresher, and fatigue doesn't.
So you're increasing your strength reserve, so you can work you can be more comfortable and therefore make better decisions because you're working at a lower capacity.
It takes a bit of strain off your mind because your body's not as tired and fatigued.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So it's not, it's not one of the first sports you think of as needing strength and conditioning, but seeing some of the crazy positions they get into, like they essentially in a golem position,
it's really
crouched down, hunched up, and they're ducking under the mainsail, the boom, or whatever that's called. So the things that I kind of identified as areas for maybe targeting is, hip flexors are going to be super crazy tight.
Yep.
They're stuck in a kyphotic position, so pecs are potentially going to be really crazy tight. So just try and really strengthen posterior chain, and again, nothing that unique.
Yeah,
like it is quite basic still. So I had them once a week for an hour. All quite raw athletes that didn't move particularly well. So I really just wanted to teach them how to lift properly, so that if they did get into a scholarship at some point,
they've got that base.
They've got that skill. They don't have to spend 6 months, however long, developing that skill.
Nice. We're jumping around because that's my habit. I'd love to chat to you about. So you did the internship here, and that was a bit of you wrote a lovely card at the end detailing what an eye opener it was, which I'll never forget. And that's obviously helped you a lot with your teaching. Tell us all about what you think. Now you know what you didn't know. What did you think when you just finished uni? Before you said it's like a day before you've come in and started the internship, and then there's that first week. What did you learn? What did you think that really changed?
It's a very good question. It's a big question. I've learned heaps. It's hard to actually explain specifically
there's
what
a lot.
There's a lot.
Jacob, when he talks about it, I'll give you some time to think because I like this story. Jacob, when he'd finished, he was kind of like, pretty much, I've learned everything. Just need to top off the tank. Like he had,
when he finished the internship.
No, when he finished his degree.
Oh, I didn't think that at all.
Yeah.
No.
Or did you had a better sense of what you didn't know?
Yeah, I think so. But by the sounds of it, I didn't feel confident at all coming out of uni. It wasn't until I actually got through this internship that I was like, oh yeah, maybe I actually am pretty good at some of this stuff.
Yeah, okay.
But coming out of uni, I was very like, I don't think I've learned anything in the last 3 years. I couldn't really pinpoint what I had learned.
And your parents are physios too, so the human body is kind of the family business.
Yeah, I guess so.
So you would have been more conversant in functional anatomy than the average person, or not so much?
Maybe, I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. I knew
you didn't talk about it around the table much?
No, because none of the rest of my family was interested in it. And my family was like the best arguers in the world.
Really?
Yeah. Not in an aggressive way.
No, just good debaters?
Very good debaters.
Yeah, okay.
So we were always fighting about dumb stuff. So there wasn't much anatomy going on. Unless that was the topic that someone was trying to prove that they were the smartest in which case anatomy was on. Then it was on. But not really. Like I think my anatomy was okay. I knew surface anatomy quite well, and I could relate it to exercise quite well. It wasn't until I got here that my anatomy really started to develop in a meaningful way. Like, for example, I don't think I would get through the internship interview.
The interview
anymore.
process. I don't want to give too much away because it's the interviews are coming up soon. We're closing applications.
I don't
next
think I get
week
through
or so
anymore. The anatomy stuff, based on my knowledge back then. I think I would with my knowledge now.
Oh, now you
but what I
crush
knew,
it.
what I knew then wouldn't get me through it now. So all of this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And then so moving into the teaching space, what have you learnt in terms of the art? Because teaching is another form of coaching, and it's different. What are you applying there? Is there stuff you're taking from your coaching and applying at uni?
I mean, subconsciously there probably is. I don't really know. I'm very vague when it comes to my own qualities and skills.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. Coaching is essentially just teaching. It's just in a different setting. So I guess trying to dumb things down and make it relatable.
Relatable, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the skill.
What's the thing so I have my own ideas about when I look at graduates of sports science degrees. They have some tremendous strengths, but they also have some glaring weaknesses. It's definitely, and then the ability to engage with people and all that, they call it the soft skills, which I hate the term soft skills. I want a better name for that. What are your thoughts on the top 3 or 2 things that they're missing when they come into the picture?
If I'm going to generalize,
which is what we do all the time, so that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's critical thinking, particularly in your first year subjects, and that's fair because they've just come out of school where you are fed everything. But it takes a while for them to realise that, no, this is self-directed learning. Like this is just a catalyst for you to learn and dive deeper and develop those analytical skills.
Yep.
And that wasn't really something that I learned until here.
Well, I mean, I got really lucky because I got taught about logic and thinking in my my first degree, my arts degree.
Yeah.
Because I was a double major in politics and sociology, minor in English lit. And there was a bit of philosophy and a bit of logic and a bit of thinking and you just don't get really taught that in a sports science degree.
No, not really.
Interesting.
It's still probably, I mean, I still work for Deakin, so I don't want to bash the program or anything like that.
I serve on the undergraduate board at Deakin and we love those guys. It's for context, Deakin is ranked currently the 3rd best sports science university. It was number 1 in the world for a couple of years. They're pretty keen to get that mantle back. And best sports science undergrad degree in the country. And now we've got a sweet lab. That is centre. That's amazing, isn't it? I went there last week.
Yeah, it is good. That's probably...
So the critical thinking.
Critical thinking, I think. And I try quite hard while I'm coaching to not overfeed information. Like I had some pretty good tutors and stuff, but the ones that were really good when I was doing my degree were the ones that kind of said, go and figure it out.
Yeah.
And it seems like a pretty harsh stance to take as a teacher, like you're supposed to be delivering the content, but it doesn't, at least I've found that it doesn't help to have the content delivered at you.
No, you've got to learn how to learn. Yeah.
So I try to open it up a little bit more and have more discussion about, give them a chance to actually think about it and use their brain and they can ask me for my thoughts on what they're doing and then have a big discussion about it. And generally I'll just try and probe, like, why would you do that? What's the reason for doing that?
What's the rationale?
And sometimes they'll have thought about it and then often they'll just go, oh, I don't know. And that's a good thing to get to that point.
Good thing to admit too.
Yeah. And that happens to me sometimes where I put something in a program and someone will go, why am I doing this? And I'll go, I forgot, or I actually don't know why I'm doing that. Critical thinking.
Critical thinking. One thing that's interesting to me is when I was on the tour of Deakin last week, or maybe it was the week before, very recent, I happened to see Liv in there. Someone was doing like a supplementary practical thing, which I guess they'd not passed their demonstrating thing.
Yeah.
And so they were demonstrating how to do an exercise to another student. And it reminded me of how inverted the priorities are with instruction in terms of what you're taught at uni of how to instruct and what you're taught in the real world. Because at uni, it's basically every time you throw in a point,
you get another point.
You get a point.
Yeah.
So we will have people come into our program and I was like, okay, coach me how to squat. And they'll give me a 72-point manifesto on how to squat. And by the time they're at point 40, I've forgotten about point 1. I mean, I'm exaggerating. It's probably only a 15-point manifesto, but still it's long. And you get marks for that, so you're more likely to succeed. And in the real world, for me, it's I'm deducting a point for every syllable you use.
Yeah, okay.
I want you to be able to say core lift, feet set, lock in the core, chest up, drive the hips.
Yeah.
Like really get to the point with the least, the highest signal and lowest noise ratio. Whereas, and how do you go when you're assessing people? Because you're going to be assessing people who are bringing a lot of noise.
I agree with you, but we have to assess them the way that uni wants us to assess them. It is quite bizarre, and
they have to do it.
They have to do it, and at the end of the day, they need to pass their degree and they want to get the best mark possible. So I can't say don't do that. But I will often say, don't do that in the real world, kind of thing. You won't ever coach like that. But it's frustrating, and it's taken me a while to dismantle that uni preconceived idea of explain every little thing. Like, there are still times when I want to do it, but I'm realizing now that it really doesn't matter what you say that much. It can just be all noise, even if you're saying the perfect cues. Some people
they're nervous.
Just in one ear, out the other.
We forget how nervous people are in the gym too, because it's such a comfortable environment for us. But people, they just get nervous, and that frontal cortex shuts down, and they're all lizard brain, and you may as well be speaking a different language.
So I just try and demo and do a good demo and say as little as possible.
Are you going to be able to demo push-ups?
I can push up again.
Can you?
Yeah, I can push up again.
I broke my wrist in 3 places in 2018.
You fell off your bike, didn't you?
Fell off my bike. So lame.
That is a young man's sport, downhill BMX bike riding.
It was slightly cooler than that. I was mountain biking on a black run too fast. So if you want to market it, that sounds all right.
It does sound all right.
But the dumb part is it was my second time ever on a black run.
Oh. So you were at that dangerous age of the sport where you were good enough that you felt good.
I felt confident.
But not good enough that you could get yourself out of trouble.
I didn't understand what I was in for. And I tried to jump over. There was a drop-off, and I jumped over it, and I buried the front wheel under a root. It just stopped. So I went from going at, 50k an hour or 40, probably only 40, whatever it was, to zero. And actually, 3 avulsion fractures on my wrist. I ripped my wrist off the bone because I did it on the handlebars.
Oh, gosh.
I didn't do it on the ground. I did it on the handlebars and it just went.
Yeah.
So I was very concerned that I would never push up again. But I'm back.
I reckon you can live without push up.
No, because for demonstrations.
I mean, for demos.
I was, the physio was like, I'll go get a set of handles. I'm like, I'm not going to go get a set. I need to be able to do a push up. Anyway.
I could live without having to demo push ups.
Really? No, I like a crisp push up demo. So this has been awesome. Thanks so much for your time. It's a bit sweaty in here too. It might look like we're nervous. It's just
I'm still a bit nervous.
It's just a beautiful summer's day here in Melbourne, and we don't have aircon in the studio. I'd like to round it out, and this is going to be very difficult. I've got 2 questions. The first, and you're a very modest person, so you're going to struggle to answer this well. But why I think you have been and will continue to be very successful. What do you attribute, if anything, to that? Why have you been successful?
I don't know, because I don't agree. I still feel I'm a bit of a textbook overthinker. And
you're a world-class overthinker.
Yeah.
Which is because it's easy to dial it back from an overthinker. Then you can't dial up an underthinker to an overthinker. You can learn, because I'm an overthinker.
Yeah.
You can learn to dial back.
It is I have learned to dial back.
I think you have.
A lot of things have helped me get better at it. Yeah. But I am a textbook overthinker, so I don't feel particularly confident a lot of the time. A lot of my confidence is faked.
I think that's why you've been good. That's why you're going to be great, because the worst thing you can do is have this false, you're the opposite of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Yep. So Dunning-Kruger effect is where you're basically so unskilled that you're unaware of how unskilled you are. And in fact, actually think you're good at a thing.
Yeah.
So you're like the reverse of Dunning-Kruger. So I think that's actually part of your thing.
It'd be nice to just get one point where I'm like, I'm pretty good though. Like just once.
That comes.
Every now and then I get these little sort of spurts of confidence where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually pretty good at this.
Yeah, cool.
And then maybe a day later it's gone. And it doesn't come back for probably 3 or 4 months.
I think I was like that for most of my 20s.
I am getting better though. Like I I've had some really good mentors, yourself included, that have given me a bit of a boost at times, and people have continually said, it's better to be a bit more of an overthinker than an underthinker, because it means you're going to see a lot more things.
Your eyes are open.
Yeah, you're going to think about things a little bit more deeply. You're not just going to do things willy-nilly. So I think it can be a painful power, but I think it is a bit of a mild superpower.
You can channel it as a mild superpower. I agree 100%.
Yeah, but I'm getting better at switching off that monkey brain and
just chilling.
There's been a lot of things to help me do that. Like I'm meditating.
Yeah, great.
Flat out. Oh, I'm on the best meditation
Are
streak.
you? Because
I'm on 115 days straight. So now I'm at that point where I have to get to a year.
What? So I talked a big game at the start of this year about doing every day this year. And I got 56 in and I broke it.
Oh, that would have hurt.
And it hurt so hard, so bad. Meditation is one of the biggest areas of failure in my life because I know how good it is, and then I suck at doing it. Like I'm training, I win at training. I'm training 6-7 days a week. My momentum is strong. What app are you using?
Headspace. Yeah, I love Headspace.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I'm now a bit competitively inspired because you've made me feel embarrassed.
Well, you can never catch me unless I falter. So
yeah,
I've got even more motivation.
I'm going to start. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to try and catch you.
But no, that's one of
that's great, isn't it?
So yeah, Jacob got me onto Headspace a couple of years ago.
And he's got a lovely voice.
Oh, it's the most beautiful voice. It's just so calming and just so peaceful.
So what are you up to? 115,
I think, as
cool.
of this morning.
And what does it get like? Because I only got to 50 or something. Does it change much? Are you doing different ones? Like, because you can do ones for sleep, you can do ones for this, ones for that.
I have gotten through a lot of the packs. At various points, and so
when do you do it?
Changes a lot, but I try to do it in the morning.
Before training, after training, like roll out of bed.
Whenever
I'm grasping at straws because I need to
whenever's most convenient in my day. Ideally, I'd roll out of bed and just do it, but it just doesn't seem to work for me. Like my brain's too asleep first thing out of bed. So for a while, like I'd drive to Deakin to work, and I'd usually get there a fair bit early, and I'd sit in my car and do it.
Yeah, okay.
Sometimes I'd do it at the end of the day, just because that's the most convenient time. But are
you scared about forgetting? I'd be terrified about forgetting.
No, because
particularly now that I'm going to start breathing down your neck.
It's such a habit that I don't forget it. Yeah, like I literally never forget it now.
That's great. And what I get out of it is I think it makes me a clearer. When I do it for a while, I am a clearer thinker, and I'm just more observant, and I sleep better. What do you get out of it?
Yeah, I don't get as much of the sleep benefits. I'm a pretty bad sleeper. I try to do it in the morning purely if I do it in the evening or in the afternoon, it seems more like medicine. Because if I do it in the morning, it's more of a proactive.
It's more like exercise.
Yeah. And so doing it in the morning sets me up for the rest of the day. And I'm just a much calmer, content, more present sort of person.
That's cool.
It just gives you that split second between something happening and then
that gap between the stimulus and response.
Like that gap exists.
Do you know, I've never been very tempted to have a tattoo, but the one tattoo I've always wanted is Stephen Covey wrote one of my favourite books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
And there's a diagram in there and it's got just this kind of arrow, this kind of gap between stimulus and response. And the point being that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control our response to what happens. And there's actually the kind of definition of sort of emotional maturity is knowing that there's that gap and exploiting that and actually being able to go, okay, something irritating's just happened. I don't have to react in that way.
Yeah, and that I had no skill whatsoever for that previously. Yeah. And it wasn't all meditation. Like full disclosure, I had a pretty bad mental breakdown a couple of years ago that I came out the other side of very happily.
Yeah, that's great.
And that was also another big catalyst for being on top of that type of thinking now.
That's great.
But it exists. Like it does exist, that gap. It sounds a bit,
it's sort of hippie-ish.
Yeah, it does sound a bit hippie-ish, but once you've felt it, you know that it's there. And I lose it at times. Like sometimes life gets too stressful and too much stuff going on and you forget about that gap.
And time is long. Like we talk about time in terms of seconds, and so 3 seconds doesn't sound like a long time, but it's quite a long time. You can do a bit of thinking in 3 seconds.
You can,
and a bit of self-regulation. Yeah.
But yeah, so
That's cool.
anyway, everyone should start meditating.
Yeah, all right, nice. Well, me first. I should show
should.
some leadership and stop being such a hypocrite. Final question before we go.
Yeah.
Advice to young you. So you've got a time machine and you can zap back to 20-year-old you. What do you tell 20-year-old you?
So if really
Limit it to career, maybe.
Yeah, okay, limit to career.
So, there's a lot of things I'd tell 20-year-old me.
Yeah, it's a very big question. I think one of the things that I've done reasonably well that I wasn't always good at is even the jobs that you don't like, do them well anyway, because it's kind of success builds on success. And like a really good example of that is so Olivia Knowles, who's the HPM at the Bulldogs, I taught a unit with her last year, and we actually taught the same class together. And this isn't to say I didn't enjoy that job, because I'm still doing it and I do enjoy it. It's, twice a week, every week we were working together, and lots of opportunity for me to do a bad job, which would have influenced her opinion of me as a strength and conditioning coach and as a teacher and all those sorts of things. And what ended up happening is she got the job as the HPM at the Bulldogs AFLW team. And as a joke, we were out for beers one night with a big group of academics from Deakin. She got the job, and I was like, wow, that's amazing, congratulations. We had a chat about it, and then a bit of a joke, I said, do you need a strength and conditioning coach? And she was like, actually, yes. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, but cool. So she got me in for an interview, and then I had an interview and then ended up getting the role.
That's so cool.
And that, I didn't plan that. Like, that was just an opportunity.
That's serendipity.
Yeah. It was just an opportunity that came about a little bit because of luck.
And you made your luck. I'm literally Jamie Smith's doing the strength culture. They're having me in as a guest presenter for their Congress. It's coming around pretty soon, and my topic is the compounding power of excellence. Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is you do a great job on a thing that is actually not that meaningful to you, other than that it's an example of your work. Like, it's just you do a great job because you're a professional and you do that, and then things always flow from it. And so this is a classic example of that. You did a good job on a job that wasn't particularly exciting, but you were like, I'll be a pro. And the more you do that, it just builds. And, 20 years later, there's that kind of stepping stone moment that led to all these other things.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
It's probably,
whatever job you're doing.
Just do a good job because you should. And it can lead to those better things. Like, there's no such thing as wasted experiences, and that's something that I'm still trying to wrap my head around and fully accept, that there's no such thing as wasted time. And 20-year-old me probably believed in that and was probably always looking ahead to the next exciting thing, to the point that I was probably doing exciting things and not fully in the moment.
Too busy worrying about the next exciting thing.
Yeah. And so, just slow down, be present with your work and the people in your life and all those things.
That's a great message.
Yeah.
Profound. I didn't expect so much profound stuff. This is great. Listen, thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll have a bit of show notes for you guys. I'll find the Steve Jobs thing. And also what we've got to find out is we've got to confirm or deny the genesis of the AFL as a cricket preparation thing. So we will get back to you guys on that. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks very much.
And before you go, hear from our alumni about the online mentorship.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it, and coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years. So it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
I get to, train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying, I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
It's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, oh, how does that tie into everything? It's
it's something practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
Semester 3 of the mentorship is now open. Apply at coreadvantage.training/mentorship.